there's a lot I could say about direct sourcing. I think that direct sourcing is a novel idea and concept, but what I can't wrap my brain around is that there are so many people out there that have tried it, used it in our industry that just say it doesn't work, but people are determined to try and make it work. And I think that, and we've been approached by, hey, could we use this and deploy it for our direct sourcing program? And there it might enhance that. It could enhance that. It just depends on how it is utilized. It depends on whether or not you're using curators that work for you, the client, or if you're using a third party curator of talent. There's a lot of things. And we I'll give you an example. There's a client of ours, a very large RPO client, that has their MSP managing their direct sourcing. There's no money to be made in an MSP anymore. So they do all of the direct sourcing and payrolling, right? Because it's the only way to make money. All the requisitions go to the direct sourcing company, and then they get released to their vendor community. And to me, I find it kind of interesting that in the early days, you probably remember the big thing was VOP, vendor on premise, where we would have a vendor on premise, and light industrials kind of migrated back that way. But I'm like, this really isn't any different than vendor on premise when you have another party there doing the sourcing and getting all of the requisitions before the vendor community. And by the way, I bet the vendor community isn't really aware that that's taking place. We found out just by coincidence through a conversation. That's the challenge, is the lack of transparency in these things, because they're fearful that if they're transparent and tell vendors, vendors won't want to support them. And I'm empathetic to that. But to me, there's right things and wrong things. And that just is wrong. I mean, because all staffing vendors are investing money in hope of getting something in return. We've already invested resources, time, money, and we have an expectation based on what the volume is and based on what the vendor count is and based on all these factors of what we might be able to capture. And we make an investment according to that. Oh, and then we find out a year and a half later that this is going on, right? And then it's very, very challenging and frustrating.